to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. This is our third sponsored show for High Point Market, April 2019. Today's show is brought to you by Visual Comfort and Company and features the new product launch designed by Lauren Rottet. Visual Comfort and Company is located in Houston, Texas, and since 1997 has been the premier source for signature designer lighting. For more than 30 years, Visual Comfort has collaborated with some of the most influential and iconic designers in the industry to produce lighting using natural elements of exceptional quality and distinctive hand-applied living finishes. Visual Comfort is proud to offer the industry's widest range of incomparable lighting choices of extraordinary quality at a remarkable value. Previous collections have been designed by the design greats, including Alexa Hampton, Thomas O'Brien, Kelly Wearstler, and John Roselli, among many others. And now Lauren Rottet joins this illustrious list, and when you hear her background, you will understand why she will be side by side with these illustrious men and women. Lauren Rottet is one of the most celebrated interior architects in the world today, with an extraordinary record of awards, publications, lectures, juries, and honors. Lauren Rottet is the only woman in the history to be elevated to the fellow status by both the American Institute of Architects and International Interior Design Association. Lauren holds the coveted titles of Interior Design Hall of Fame and Interiors Now Contract Designer of the Year, and she is a lifetime appointee to the U.S. General Services Administration's National Register of Peer Professionals for Design Excellence. In 2006, Lauren was inducted as an inaugural member of the Women in Design Hall of Fame. In 2012, she was named Boutique Design Designer of the Year. In 2014, Lauren was inducted into Hospitality Design Magazine's legendary Platinum Circle, the magazine's highest honor for design professionals. Her furniture and product designs have earned her 4 gold medals for Best of NeoCon as well as Chicago Athenaeum Award. Lauren began her career in San Francisco with the residential design firm Fisher Friedman Associates. Relocating to Chicago, she joined Skidmore, Owings & Merrill and focused on high-rise office design. Her work with SOM took her back to Texas, where she was a senior designer on several major high-rise buildings, museums, and planning projects. Soon, she was asked by SOM to start an interiors practice in Los Angeles. After successfully building that practice, Lauren and several SOM partners joined forces to create the architecture and interiors firm Keating, Mann, Jernigan, and Rottet. Expanding from a staff of 6 to 60 in only 4 years, the partners joined Daniel Mann Johnson and Merendal to further expand their growing practice. There, Lauren was principal in charge of the interiors practice for 14 years. In 2008, she left DMJM to form with a team of architects and designers she had worked with for some with as many as 25 years, and she formed the privately held Women Business Enterprise Certified Rottet Studio. Today, I am truly delighted to share with you this innovative entrepreneur. We're going to learn about her career, her lessons, and about her latest endeavor, the stunning lighting line she has designed for Visual Comfort and Company. Hi, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Well, hello, and you're absolutely welcome.
Thank you. So, Lauren, here's the thing. I have had over 400 interviews at this point, and I am excited to have this interview with you because it's so important that I interview interior designers that are 1, 3, 5, 10 years in business. And the reason that that's important is because they're so close to that beginning startup phase, and they can remember it very easily, and they have very acute, still very close memories of the things that they did to flip the switch and put their business on the right track. But over the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity, but more rare, to interview a business owner like yourself that has several decades of experience and has such an high level of achievement and experience in the field. And so I'm looking forward to picking your brain and understanding what drives you, understanding some of the hindsight lessons that you might share with us, and understanding and hearing from you some of the encouragement for those firms that are listening, that are 15 and 10 and 20 years and looking for this next level that you have created in your career. So where I would love to start is that this is the second time beginning your own firm. The first you had partners. This is now your own firm, Rottet Studio. But it's a big firm. It's not your garden variety interior design firm. Would you tell us a little bit about your firm, the structure, the type of projects that it does, and how you've come to be in this place at this time?
Sure, absolutely. Well, we have about 70 people, and we have 3 offices in the U.S. and Los Angeles and Houston and New York. We call it the Smile Across America. We like coastal cities. And we also have an affiliate company in China because we do a bit of work there. As you had previously said, many of the people have been with me 20 plus years. Rottet Studio is 10 years old, actually almost 11 at this point. And unlike some people out in the industry, we actually did not start small. I started my first firm small with 6 people and grew that to about 60. But this firm, we actually started with about 25, 30 people, so not necessarily small. And we started with a business more focused on office and commercial because that's what we had done for many years while with Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, and then after with our own firm, and then also along with AECOM and DMJ and Rottet. So I started my firm about 10 years ago, May 2008, and we all know what happened in October of 2008. So I got a call about June from my biggest client, 500,000 square feet worth of high-end commercial space, and he said, "It's not you, it's not your new firm. I just am putting my whole project on hold because I don't like where the economy is going." So I thought, oh my gosh, I've just, taken 25, 30 people away from their jobs, and here we go. So what I said to myself was, okay, well, what's going to happen if there's no office work? What's going to happen if there's a recession? And so I started thinking, well, we've got to diversify. So pretty quickly I started thinking I've always wanted to do hotels, and this has got to be a good time to renovate hotels because they'll be low occupied, et cetera. So sometimes I think what you think actually comes to be. So I started thinking very heavily about this, and sure enough, we got a call about the Surrey Hotel in New York. They had seen a beautiful office space, actually, we had done in Paris and loved it. And so they called us. We started working on it, and that became the introduction to our hotel business. And we've done about 40 hotels since then in the 10 years that we've been in business. And then from hotels, we started diversifying into residential. And we just really kept diversifying. So I think that that's really important when you own your own business, because if you're just in one aspect, it's a little risky. Plus, it's not as fun. So, when you ask, how did we get here and what are we doing? Sometimes I think that I think things on a very high level. Where do I want to be? How do I want to live? Where do I want to travel? What are the kind of clients I want? And then I just think positively and work super hard, and somehow it kind of falls into place.
So I love that though. I work super hard and it falls into place. We have a saying in my house, be ready to be lucky. You know what I mean? I was ready to be lucky. So it's true. And it does feel like that when you are with your head down and working hard. Sometimes it just feels like things fall into place. But we know that there is a lot of work that goes on behind it to have it look like that. And it's funny because your statement, I should say, where you looked and you saw, well, with a recession right on top of us and getting ready to get underway, hotels will be low occupancy. And of course, that I understand. But was it a stretch, or was it Did you have to go, convince these major hoteliers to say, look, you're empty now. You know the recession's going to eventually end. Put your money, put your time, and do it now? Or is that in that industry, they understand that it's going to come back and this is the easiest time to do something like that?
Well, kind of a combination. And the other interesting thing in hotels, and we do larger projects, we do some small projects, but in hotels, they renovate every 8 or so years, definitely every 10 years. And so they have it in their pro forma. And so the money has already been allotted. So so they almost need to use that money. It's already been allotted. So, in the commercial world, that's not necessarily the case. And so, you can fast forward and say, there could potentially be good work in a recession in the commercial office world, but only if there's been a lot of new buildings that then need office tenants in them. Because, if it's a recession and you're in a current space, you're definitely not going to move. Mm-hmm. But if it's a recession, and I don't know why we're talking about all this recession. I think one of the questions earlier was about diversification and stabilizing and preparing yourself for whatever might happen. But I guess I always tend to be prepared.
Well, but this is a level conversation that we've not had on the podcast before. This seasoned business owner conversation. I mean, we have weathered several recessions ourselves at WindowWorks, and I know the first one we went through, we nearly lost our business. I know we did. I mean, my husband and I have discussed it, but each one that we went through subsequently, we did better and better, to the point that 2008 we came right through, came out stronger, and didn't miss a beat. Not that we didn't make adjustments, but that was just the point, that we saw it. I wouldn't even pretend to take credit for it. My husband saw it happening after having us gone through it 3 times prior to that, and didn't wait for there's no choice but to this. We made adjustments. And of course, those adjustments are different than the adjustments that a big hotel makes. And that was what's so interesting to me when you said that. It's like, And so I loved the understanding of knowing that, because we have other commercial firms, or hospitality firms, I should say, out there. And for them, if they have never been through a recession and they weren't to have the benefit of your expertise, to really understand that hotel has that in their budget. And, this is a great time to do it when the hotel is less busy.
Exactly.
So
and
interesting.
Construction costs are down too.
Right. Okay. And of course, you're going to have more quality vendors and so forth at your availability, because they're all looking for work. So that's I love like cool things like that I never would have even had a thought about. And so now tell us also that other part of it that you were trying to get to, is the diversifying. When you are a big firm and you have a lot of responsibility, all of these employees, and you're explaining that one of the keys to maintaining your profitability and running this firm is to have some diversification. Tell us about that, Lauren.
Well, everything is cyclical, and I love the 3 cities that we have offices in, but they're not just because I love those cities. They are also strategic, because interestingly, it seems that, New York is up, and then LA is up, and then last Texas comes up, or vice versa. New York goes down, LA goes down, then Texas goes down. So those 3 cities themselves are not on the same cycle. So that's one form of diversification. And then if you have one toe in the hospitality world, another in the commercial world, that's pretty good diversification, because those 2 are typically a little counter-cyclical as well. And then the diversification into the residential was simply because there's been such a enormous residential boom lately in the high-rise world, that we just wanted to be a part of it. One, it was just a super fun. We had the opportunity to work with some amazing architects and amazing owners and do some great work, and it's been a fun education. We've never really sought to do a lot of private residential, but through some of these other high rises, we're starting to do private residential, and that can be a lot of fun. And that also can be something that takes you on another, diversified path, and allows you to actually hire people that have different skills from your other people, and sort of round out your firm. People that are a little bit more focused on furniture and details and true, interior design and decoration versus more interior architecture. So we like to, gather these project types, and then we love to gather the people that are good at working on them. And then we like to grow this whole thing so that it matures and, can fairly easily handle all of these. Another thing that I did a huge ship for a friend of mine who has a huge ship. I did a renovation so he could sell it. And I thought, this is fun. I want to go into the cruise business.
World domination.
World domination. Well, as designers, we just want to design everything, right?
Everything, right?
Everything. So we did this brochure, and it was really pretty, and it had that ship, and then it had any picture of any project we'd ever done that had some kind of a water view. And we turned it into a portfolio, and sure enough, Viking gives us a call about a month later, and Richard in LA said, "Lauren, didn't you do a cruise brochure?" And I said, "I did," and I sent it out. And sure enough, and now we've done, 60 ocean and river cruises for them. And so that is also a huge diversification. And we have been very loyal to Viking, but that is a whole knowledge base and they've been very, very loyal to us. But that's a whole knowledge base. We have about 20 people who know ships very, very well. So that's yet another diversification that we've explored. My next one is I want to get back into doing more buildings, more architecture, more of the outsides.
Okay. Interesting. I thought you were going to say my next one is outer space. I want to be the one that designs the moon.
We are in Houston. We are near NASA.
Exactly. Like the space capsule. I'll make it pretty, and then we'll make the moon pretty. We're good.
Definitely pretty first, right?
That's it. So there's two things in there that I want to pick out. The first is that you just said it towards the end there, when you decide to diversify and go into whether it was residential design or ship design or whatever it is, each time you mention that you're now taking on those employees, that creates the team that has the expertise in that. You're not there with your commercial team and saying, "Hey guys, figure out ship design," and "Hey guys, make that house beautiful." You are consciously, as the owner of your business, looking at the skill sets of the people that you have. And if you're moving into an area to diversify, you're also bringing in or utilizing people that have this as a primary skill set. You're not stretching people thin with this.
Well, that's a very good point, and our clients have been very kind to us on some of these. For example, cruise ships and airplanes and such are very, very specialized skills. So the first couple, we were teamed with ship designers, with people who did, mostly exclusively cruise lines for a business, because there is a lot to learn. So in that case, they really educated our team. They did not want someone who had a preconceived idea of what a ship design should look like. So they were very happy to hire someone who was just a design thinker and someone who could analyze the issues and really recreate the whole way that cruising is done. So our education was through them, through this partnership. And then in the residential, of course, we had some people who loved residential, so they were super excited to be on these projects. And so that one was a little bit more of an organic in-house. And then as we grew, then we hired people with a little bit more design backgrounds. But we do have kind of an interesting setup in my office. We don't section people off and say you work on office and you work on hotel and you work on residential. They all work on all of it. And I think that's a very pertinent thing in today's world, because there is this enormous blurring of the lines. Every office wants to be super fun and casual and food and beverage oriented and hospitality like. And we have been awarded our last 3 law firm projects by showing our hospitality brochure. We show some of our office brochure, but we show them the cool bars we've been doing and the restaurants we've been doing and the social hubs and the sort of communal work areas, and that's what people are loving. And then the whole hotels are starting to do co-working, so they're very interested in our conference rooms and audiovisual, and so it's we really blur it. And we train people when they first come into us. We put them on the job sites with us, of course, looking at how things are built, and then we train them back up the other direction. A lot of people design first and then eventually later the field, but we like people to see how things are built first, because we think that's a great education.
That's an interesting point. I'm going to come back to it. I just made a note, but I want to ask you a couple other things about the other. So first of all, I like that you're describing that you might need specialty niches and specialty talents, but your team is well versed, and you don't niche them and put them in a cubby and make them work in a certain way. The other thing is that it's funny, because it reminds me when you said the cruise ship wanted someone outside the ship designing world because they wanted new eyeballs, right? They wanted new take. And it reminds me, I just had a conversation with Sue Firestone, and she described similar in that a lot of the, like, she does a lot of work with MGM and the Ritz-Carlton and the Waldorf Astoria on their most prestigious properties. And she said, as a high-level luxury interior designer, she's bringing that look of residential luxury to these hotel companies, and that's what they want. And so you're describing the same thing that happened with the Viking. They wanted that feeling of not your average, but ship design. So very cool. But you have to be on your toes to do that, because I'm sure even though they were happy and willing to go the ropes with you, there was probably a great onus put on yourself and your team in order to meet a lot of codes and a lot of standards that are just not your normal garden variety, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you have to be very cautious, obviously, and very open to that. And we're hungry for learning. I think that's been one of my favorite things about growing in the business and getting a little older. Sometimes it frustrates me. Have I been learning that lesson again? Why am I still learning lessons? But on the other hand, it's so fun. I'm still learning. And I think that we take it very seriously. And we do a lot of homework every time we take on a new project type, for sure. And then even just a new project, we research the city, we research the different, who are the good contractors. We really do a lot of homework to make successful projects.
And I wanted to go back to your describing how when you first take on new hires that you train them from the field site first, teaching them the how things are built. And that's so... my goodness, we say it all the time on our little niche of window treatments. Even a salesperson, if a salesperson who's going to sell even the simplest thing as a blind, let alone do architecture and the kind of work that you do, if you can understand how that is going to be installed, you're so much more adept at making the measurements for that product. So tell us, what is that curve like? Do you take somebody and they're on sites on the field for a month, 3 months, 2 weeks? What does that look like, Lauren?
Well, it's not so much of an extended period of time, because typically when you're under construction, you visit, well, if it's local, you visit the job site almost every day. But if it's out of town, you visit it about once a week. And we kind of take them as an intern. Of course, our senior person is on the job, but they go in with this kind of like an intern, taking all the minutes and doing the punch list with us and really looking around, or going to the field and seeing how things are built. So we like that, because to your point, then when they are drawing something, it's just not lines on paper. They actually understand the three-dimensional aspect of it. And so then after that, we like to give them a stint in the sort of construction document phase of things. So draw what you learned on the site. And then after that, we put them more into the design side of things. And then we think that programming is sort of the last step. A lot of people think programming is super simple, and they send their more junior people in. We think programming is the most important thing you can do, because that's setting the whole parameters for whatever it is you're going to do. So that's kind of the last thing. We bring them in on those programming sessions and teach them how to put everything they've learned together. And when they're hearing in those initial programming interviews and kickoff visioning sessions with the client, they're hearing what will ultimately be built. And they're now putting all of that together.
Nice. Very nice. And when you went to start this firm, Lauren, you mentioned that you took 25 or 30 people that you had worked with over the years and I guess invited them to come and work for you in your new firm.
We did.
And
it was
what was that like? I mean, you just start dialing the best people you had ever worked with and said, I'm creating my dream firm. Would you come be part of it?
We did a little bit of that. New York was a new office for us, so I had known David Davis for a long time. So that was the conversation exactly. They're with me about a year, and then we're going to start something really fun. But of course, the other people were with me, and I had an agreement with my firm that because I had sold my other firm to them, and I had an agreement with them. They were a huge, huge firm, and I believe they did go public, and I thought I had an inkling that they might be. So it was good timing for me to separate out, and they were very supportive. So
okay, and so
it was a relatively easy transition.
Right. Okay. And actually, I realized I had another question going back to when you went in to do the first project for Viking. If you don't mind me backtracking.
Yeah, not at all.
When you said that you created the brochure that featured all of the water projects and everything else like that, how, after you had done that first ship, where where do you put a brochure like that? Did you intentionally mail it to Viking and some of the other big cruise companies, or how did that go from an idea and a marketing piece to in the hands of the people that need to see it? Or was it on your website? Like, how did that work?
No, we did not put it on our website because it was, a very new thing. And we did go visit some of the cruise lines in the Florida area, but they were more traditional in their line of thinking. And, it was pretty clear that we really had only done this one ship once you started really talking. And I think they were a little bit more conservative or used to hiring someone with cruise experience. So it was just super interesting when the brochure went to a project manager actually in Los Angeles who happened to get the call from Viking because they're technically headquartered in Woodland Hills, California. And so she put two and two together and remembered this brochure, knew us, knew we did great work, and thought Viking and us would get along very well. So she actually introduced us to them. And they liked the brochure, but then they very quickly said, it's great that you did this, and it's more than great that you don't really do ships.
Right. Okay. And so when you say this project manager, this is, what is this? This is a firm that is, their unique position in the world is to coordinate projects with firms. Tell me, what does that mean?
Yes, that's a good question. When the world of larger interiors projects, there are oftentimes independent project managers, and they sometimes are in the business of finding the right designer for that owner. Sometimes they interview a variety of different designers and help that owner flesh out which one's the right one for them. And then typically they stay on and sort of manage the project for the owner. They manage the budgets and the schedules and, so on and so forth while we're busy doing the design and the documentation. So that is, it's a world specific to interiors, but it goes across, in architecture, it goes across all the different fields. And sometimes they specialize and sometimes they manage a whole variety of types projects. But usually they're more specialized too.
Okay. And the reason I question you, because I'm recalling Sue Firestone mentioned the exact same thing. We didn't go down the road, but she said places where you can look to break into the field of boutique and hospitality design or to align yourself with the luxury architects, the project managers, and we kind of went by it. And I just thought, this is 2 times in 2 weeks this came up. I need to know about this. And so I'm just going to ask for every designer out there that's got some chops and is saying, I've been wanting to break into this and I really feel like I'm at a good spot. Is there a 1-800 project managers directory out there, Lauren? I mean, how do you find these people?
I wish there was, but you can go to if you want to do hospitality, for example, there's amazing hospitality shows like the HD show in Vegas, which is obviously coming up. It happens every single year. I think it's around the 9th or so of May. That's actually a good thing to go to because 1, you'll learn all the vendors, and 2, all of the project managers are there because it's just a wonderful way to connect. There's smaller hospitality shows, but they're more invited. So I would say the large shows are actually a great place to start because a project manager can only recommend if they really know you and know your work or know of you and you have a strong reputation or a strong reference point that they can give you. They are not going to put their neck on the line for someone they've never heard of. So if you can get to know them and get your toe in the door by meeting them casually through someone at a show, then at least they know your name, and then you can get your resume and your portfolio in front of them and say, look, I haven't done a boutique before, but so-and-so over here says I'm the best thing since sliced bread, and you know them. So.
Well, and it's what we do say, whether we're talking about our local level here on our regular town level trying to get in with the realtors, or if it's at this level here, it's about building relationships. And I think your point is well made, is to go, and if this is where your aspirations are and this is where you see the vision of your firm, is to start going to the hospitality shows and to just start to build those relationships. You can't walk in and say, hey, refer me. To your point, they have to have that know, like, and trust factor, but you don't get it by staying at home wishing that they knew who you were, right?
Very true.
Yes. Okay. Awesome. Well, I mean, I honestly, Lauren, I could ask you about 50,000 more questions on the way you've created this business of yours. It's so interesting to me, but I do know that we are here to have you tell us about your latest venture with Visual Comfort. And so share us about what is happening, your launch in High Point, April 2019, and what's this next new hurdle for you?
Well, thank you for asking about that. I'm super excited about it. Visual Comfort is headquartered in my own hometown. It's headquartered here in Houston, Texas, and I've specified many of their lights in many of the projects that I've done over the years. And I had always wanted to do a line for them. So eventually that has finally happened, and I couldn't be more excited about it. And the other thing that's been very interesting about working with Visual Comfort is not only am I enjoying, of course, the lighting line, and I'm excited about that, I've actually been learning a lot from them. Andy Singer, who is the owner, is an extremely organized, methodical person, and he loves lighting, has an absolute passion for it, but he also has a passion and a rigor for understanding what the business is. He's very analytical about what sells at what price point, what size, and a very analytical process. And I love that because I've designed a lot of product, and sometimes the manufacturers don't really know what the audience wants. And sometimes your designs are brilliant, but it may not be aligned to their audience. Andy is very, very savvy about aligning the audience to your design, or your designs to the audience. So he doesn't tell you what to design. They just basically give you statistics on what is selling, where, and why. And so you can kind of think about that and then create your own product. So the one I showed them, multiple things, and we're going to chew through them as the years go. But we started with one called, that was all about bundled glass tubes and glass rods. I love glass. I've been fascinated by glass tubes and rods for years. And so this takes kind of a different approach, and it gathers them together. We called it Fascio because that's Italian for bundled. So the line is called Fascio. And there's sconces, and there's chandeliers, and there's floor lights, and there's a whole variety of lights that have come after this. And you start creating one or two, and then you get together with them in the sort of crit stages, and they're like, oh gosh, we could take it and we could do a barrel chandelier, or we could do a different one. So then the lines start to morph. And then I mentioned this HD show. They're kind enough to do some lighting for me because I'm doing the social hub, or the big hub at the HD show, where tell your designers to come visit me there. So I'll introduce them to some project managers.
You heard it, guys.
They're doing the lighting for me there. So we're taking Fascio and we're making it even more contemporary and even more sort of out there and interesting. So I love that they'll work with us like that and let our crazy minds explore.
And so tell us a little bit about that process. So I love that it starts from knowledge, basically what you're saying. Andy isn't saying to each of you that he invites, or however that relationship happens, right, to work and to be fortunate enough to create a line with them. But he's not just saying, hey, throw anything against the wall and we'll just see if it works. So he takes it from a very informed space and guide you through the analytics, but then you are looking at the blank page. Lauren, have you ever designed lighting before? Did you have napkins around your house for years, or did you just, the opportunity arose and you sat down and hunkered down and made it look easy because you worked hard to make it look easy?
Combination of all of that. I have been designing product for my daughter's 28, so about 30 years. And typically it was things for my own home that I couldn't find what I wanted, or for a client, I couldn't find exactly what I wanted, so I would just design it. So I've been actually designing product for many years and very successfully. It's been sort of a night job. I love doing product because it's really just about you and that product. And, there's not someone saying, here's your schedule. There's obviously time and schedule, but there's just fewer moving parts and pieces, right, that have to be coordinated. It's a little bit more personal, and it's a little more concept realized pretty much exactly the way you have it in your mind. So it's quite a fun thing. But I have designed lighting before, but every single hotel we do, for the most part, vanity sconces, corridor sconces, chandeliers, ballroom sconces. So I've actually designed quite a lot of lighting, and I've worked with a number of lighting manufacturers. And of course, in the process of doing that, I see their shop drawings. And so I had a pretty good knowledge about, the way lights go together. But the interesting thing about designing lighting right now is there's so much new technology in lighting. So what you could not do 3 years ago has been to open up, and you can do it. But my trick, I never want a light to be too glary or too, flat or too whatever. So we're really trying, and that's why we did these bundled tubes, because you can take a simple LED, and with the way these tubes work because they're faceted. It makes the light appear to be more incandescent and more beautiful and more glowing. So I'm kind of really exploring this high technology, but still beautiful light quality. And that's been one of the explorations that my line of lighting with visual comfort will have.
And the line of lighting that you are designing for visual comfort, is it specifically a hospitality line, or is it cross hospitality and residential, or one or the other?
It's definitely cross. The residential light and the quality, that's another wonderful thing about visual comfort. The quality, they do not skimp on the quality. So it's a really beautiful product, made very, very well, and it looks it. So as you know, when you do hospitality in the lobbies and restaurants and things, you can buy the higher quality lighting. But in the rooms, when you have 1,000 rooms or 400 rooms or something like that, you do have to value engineer that lighting. So they have within visual comfort, they have a way to value engineer the lighting so that it's still quite lovely, but it's affordable in a hotel room. But that's not the same light that they'll sell to you for your home.
So Lauren, I'm curious, how does something like this come about? And I'm certain that we've got colleagues listening that also have got notebooks and napkins filled with designs. And one of the questions I always ask when someone partners with a brand to create any sort of product, whether it's furniture, fabric, or in your case, lighting, how did it happen? What was the chicken or the egg there?
Yes, it's a good question. So Andy Singer, Visual Comfort, and I had been introduced a long time ago. Obviously, both live in Texas, and we'd been introduced by a mutual friend who said, look, I know you want to do lighting for Visual Comfort, and they want to do lighting with you. And then Andy just kind of went his way, and I went my way, and then I had just been thinking about it so much and really anxious to bring to light. That's typically when one of my designs come out, and it's also typically the ones that sell the most when I'm just dying for this certain light and I can't find it, or certain object and I can't find it. So I was just ready to get a lot of these lights that I've had in my head visualized. So it's just right place and right time, and they were looking for someone who had my kind of level of contemporary but still fitting within their client base. Sometimes contemporary is a scary thing to a residential client. They want to be contemporary, but they don't want to be so contemporary that it looks odd to them or cold, and so I think he felt that I had the right balance of kind of raising the level of design in a contemporary of today kind of way and still being very sensitive to a well-proportioned, well-detailed residential fixture. So I couldn't be happier about it. Super excited.
Terrific. That's terrific. And how long does it take for something like this? So you're ready to launch in April of 2019, but has this been, at the drawing board and working with them on the mechanicals of it for a year, 2 years, 6 months? How does that look?
Yeah, it's been about a year, and I think because my lighting explores some new technologies, it takes a little bit longer. If you're doing a line of lighting that is just reshaping a shade or reshaping a base or doing some very, very simple things, that can go very, very quickly. But if you're doing technology, like in this case, we're wanting to light these tubes all the way through top to bottom in a very unique way. So there's a little bit more glow in the middle, but it shades or fades off evenly to either end. There's a lot of technology involved there. And, you can't make it too heavy. It obviously has to be stable. So very typical of me, the things I do look very simple because I'm kind of a minimalist, but they're typically pretty complicated to engineer and to design. So it took a little while to get them through, but they're really quite perfect now. I think some of the other lines that will be similar to these, so they will go much quicker because we have already figured out some of the engineering behind them. So kind of the way it works is, we draw the light, we take it as far as we can as non-engineers, but we look at the proportions and we look at where we think the lighting source should go and how that should all work, and then their engineers take it and turn it into shop drawings and turn that into reality.
Is there a trial and error with that, Lauren? So you draw it, they transform it into shop drawings, and then a mock-up, I guess, is made. And is it a moment where you can go, yeah, not what I really thought, it's not it, or yes, that's exactly what I drew, and that's exactly what your shop drawing is, but actually now I see it, I don't love it. Like, how does that happen? Is that intimidating, or is it doesn't happen because you're drawing drawings and your vision are all so finite along the way.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Hopefully you don't get to a point where you look at a prototype and go, oh my God, I didn't do that, did I? But you definitely look at the prototypes and think, okay, well, the light's not going as far as it should, or, I wanted a bronze reflector, but truthfully that's not working, so let's do a white one. So there are definitely things that, exactly, they're adjustments, but they're not full sale, start over.
Throw that away in the garbage with it.
Definitely not.
And then you had to do this all while managing this huge firm and overseeing 3 offices and projects and everything else. I mean, are we looking at something that takes you away? Is it something that you could compartmentalize, Lauren? Like I'm a big fan of time blocking. So, Wednesday and Thursday I do everything related to podcasts. Fridays I do everything related to circling up my business from last week, placing my orders from the week before, make my callbacks. Is this something where you were like, okay, I'm stepping out of the business for 10 days. We're going to the factory, blah, blah, blah. Or it was an hour each morning. How does that look in the middle of running a firm this large?
Well, you sound very organized. I may not be quite that organized, but I get up very early. My brain is much fresher early. So typically I do devote some of my early morning hours to the product design. And I do have a couple of people in-house that do the design with me. I basically conceive of the design, but they have great ideas, and they're obviously more CAD and Revit and 3D savvy than I am. So they do a lot of the drawing and we work back and forth. So I would say it's kind of a combination. Definitely if I'm like at the factory or I've taken a trip to focus on sourcing or lighting, that's pretty much all I do. So maybe there is a 3-day just super focus where that's all I'm thinking about. And then I can get the big part out. Or, I have a home in Montauk. Sometimes I'll just go out to Montauk all by myself. And before I know it, I have not moved from that chair except, and maybe for 2 days. And so there's a lot of super focus in those times, but that's typically on a weekend, or a long weekend or a holiday or something like that. Right. And then I work a lot on the planes, and I also just have learned to take the 30 minutes or so that you have and switch your brain off on one thing and back onto another. So I'll take the little 30-minute times too.
It's important. It's funny. I share a lot of those things with you. My early morning hours are the best time for creative, focused work. Work that matters. For me, it's usually writing and things like that. And it's funny because even I'll say, my husband will, I thought you were going to write today. And he'll look at me at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, no, that ship has sailed. I have to wait till tomorrow morning again now.
Right, exactly.
Like I can write now, but it's going to be driveling. I'm going to redo it anyway.
It's not going to be very good.
I've learned, don't waste your time. So very, very good. Now, I have one other question about your business that I wanted to ask you. I noticed on your website that I want to call them your employees, right? They're your employees, but they are called founding principals, associate principals. What is that about? What does that mean? I'm very confused by that.
No, that's a really good question. Well, I am basically the owner of the firm, and certainly I have some financial input in the firm. But in architecture, we like to use the word principal instead of vice president, because we feel vice president is very corporate. You're a vice president of a bank. But a principal is someone who is leading a team of people. They're a principal player in it. And we also got that terminology from our backgrounds from Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill, where all 3 of us originally started. So there's principals, associate principals, and these are founding principals because David and Richard basically started the firm with me. We all 3 left our businesses and started this firm together. So that's why we call ourselves founding principals.
Interesting. It's very interesting and it's very impressive. And when I looked at it, I thought, I can't tell you the hundreds of interior designers' websites I've looked at in the last 3 years, Lauren, and that was the first time I've ever seen something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure there's probably others. I'll get 19 emails saying, mine does it the same way. But it was new for me, and I thought it was, I was just curious about it. So, oh, man. So are you excited to go to High Point and to launch? Have you ever launched a product before? I'm not aware of that.
Well, definitely in the commercial world, I worked with Halcon and Steelcase and a number of the Decca, a number of the Bernhardt, a number of the commercial lines. So we launch at NeoCon in June in Chicago. But High Point, I have definitely been, of course, but launching at High Point is new for me. So I'm very excited about it. And we're going to have a book signing. So I have a Rizzoli book, which is nice. And I'm very excited about it.
That's exciting. And
I don't know that I have a hotel room yet because they were all full, but I'll be somewhere.
I hope you got people that are going to help you with that, Lauren. I got news for you. Oh my goodness. I stayed at the Marriott with the Cravat block a year ago, and I said, it's April. I like this here. This is awesome. Let me just make my own hotel room for October. No. So, and then I said, well, the following April. No, you can't get into that Marriott for 20 years. It's just, no, exactly. You got to know somebody, sweetie.
I'm thinking I may have to do a little boutique in North Carolina.
Exactly. It's the craziest thing. I think everybody just rents them for years and years and years. Like, let some of us new people in. So, Lauren, we're looking forward to High Point Market here. And do you tell us where and when are we going to get to meet and see you at High Point Market at Visual Comfort?
Well, I'll look forward to that. I would say come on Friday. We have Visual Comfort has a great party, typically on Fridays. So I think it starts around 4, maybe 4 to 6. So I would look forward to seeing you then. And then we're going to have a book signing sometime that week, and the schedule's firming up. So I look forward to it.
Okay. I love it. So I have to say, I'm sure, Lauren, that many of the designers listening are really going to be excited to meet you in person at Visual Comfort, to see this spectacular lighting line that you have created for them, and to just, get the opportunity to pick your brain a little bit, both about the design, but also about the way your business is run. So thank you so much for spending time with us today and going through all of these details with us. I appreciate it.
Well, you're so welcome, Luann. Thanks for your questions, and your podcasts are great. So thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.